Good morning, my wonderful students. How are you today? I hope you are all fine. Yes, I can see that. Okay. God bless you. Be seated. I hope you are ready for this class today. Okay. Get yourself ready. And get your writing materials ready as well. Thank you. The topic we are considering this morning is called the Supremacy of God. Can you say it after me? The Supremacy of God. You know, as usual, before we go further, we need to look at the lesson objectives. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to discuss the religious situation in Israel at the time of Elijah and Obadiah. You should be able to describe the courage of Elijah and Obadiah. You should be able to recognize the manifestation of God's power. The manifestation of God's power. And lastly, you should be able to identify the main lessons in the passages and relate them to your own life. Relate them to your individual lives. Now, let's get to the, lesson proper. The first subheading that we shall be looking at is religious tension in Israel. Religious tension in Israel. The Bible text that we can use as our working text today is taken from the book of 1 Kings, chapter 16, verse 29 to 34. 1 Kings, again, chapter 17, verse 1 to 7. 1 Kings 18, verse 1 to 19. The same 1 Kings, chapter 19, verse 1 to 18. Now, we are going to look, I'm going to, if time permits us, maybe you will read one or two of these working texts. Now, in the summary of what happened during this time in the land of Israel, when the Lord brought the Israelites out of Egypt, he established a new covenant with them in form of 10 commandments. The first of those commandments forbids the Israelites from worshiping any other God beside the Almighty God that brought them out of Egypt. But something happened. Through Moses, God gave them ordinances and statutes. He gave them ordinances and statutes which they must follow at all times to serve him. It was therefore an abomination, a forbidden thing for any king to introduce the worship of an idol in Israel. During the time of King Ahab, he married a foreigner from Sidon called Jezebel. Who were the Sidonians? When you go to the book of 1 Kings, chapter 11, verse 1, they were the people from one of the hidden nations, whom God had warned the Israelites not to have any dealings with. The reason why God warned them not to have any dealings with these people was that God knew that in the course of dealing with them, having relationships with them, these people, they were idol worshippers. They will later turn the heart of the Israelites, God's people, after other lesser gods, which we can call idols. This Jezebel was the daughter of Edbar, king of Sidonians. That means she was a princess. Jezebel introduced the worship of Sidonian god called Ba. Called what? Ba. What is Ba? Ba was sun god of Phoenician and the supreme deity among the Canaanites and various other pagan nations. Each locality had its own Baal, and the form of worship varied from place to place. Baal happened to be a sun god, not a real and true god. So this woman introduced the worship of this god, this idol, in the land of Israel against the commandment of God given to the Israelites by Moses, through Moses, that they should not worship other god beside him. She, Jezebel, with her husband, Ahab, erected an altar for Baal and Asherah. This led to religious tension in Israel. The land of Israel, was divided into two camps. One camp of the people of God, another camp, people that worship idol. Jezebel persecuted the prophets of God by putting them to death, while the ones that were alive went into hiding. That is, the true prophets of God that were still standing, that they will not follow Baal, they will follow the true God. Any time Jezebel captured them, she will put them to death. And those that were able to escape, they went into hiding. They started hiding inside what? Inside a cave. Apparently, Ahab was considered one of the worst kings of Israel. Ahab happened to be a son of Omri. King Omri was the father of Ahab. He reigned over Israel for 12 years. And the wrath, that is, he did that which was evil. That was evil in the eyes of the Lord. And he did worse than all that were before him. That is, he was more wicked than other kings before him. And his son too, who reigned after him, Ahab, did worse than other king. He did not only sin, he also made Israel sin by, forcing them to worship idol. This annoyed God. He therefore sent Elijah to Ahab to proclaim 3.5 years drought in Israel as a punishment for abandoning their God for the worship of idol called Baal. I've explained, I've told you what Baal was. Having proclaimed this, Elijah was haunted by Ahab because the moment he made that proclamation, there was no rain for 3 years and 6 months. The moment he made that proclamation, Ahab and his wife Jezebel started hunting for him throughout Israel. You see that in the book of 1 Kings 18, verse 10. But God was with Elijah. He provided him security and fed him at different places in different ways. As he was running from one place to another, God was with him. At first, Elijah was in Brook Cherith, just like a small stream of water, river. That's where God made him to, he drank from that brook while the ravens fed him. God gave him water through that brook, and the raven was feeding him. They brought bread and meat in the morning. The ravens, they will bring bread and meat in the morning and in the evening. When the brook dried up, God sent Elijah to the widow of Zarephath, who fed him. Who did God send Elijah to when the brook dried up? Yes, you. Widow of what? Zarephath. Give him a round of applause. Let us continue. That means you are following. In Israel, Obadiah was also part of the prophets, but he was the head of Ahab's household. This man feared God greatly. And following the persecution of the prophets of God, God used Obadiah. He took 100 prophets and hid them by 50s in a cave, and he fed them with bread and water. There was serious tension in Israel. Jezebel and her group were stronger to establish the worship of Baal in Israel. When other, some prophets, they've gone into hiding, and some have been killed. So Jezebel and her husband, they dominated the land with the worship of Baal. And on the other hand, God established his supremacy by withholding the rain. They did not fall for the space of 3.5 years. King Ahab and his household were hit seriously by this drought. The thing really hit them hard. And Ahab and Obadiah went out searching for pasture for the animals. So by that time, they met Elijah. God showed himself as the Alpha and Omega. He made provisions for Elijah and used Obadiah to provide for the other 100 prophets. In all this desperate search, which Jezebel and Ahab made to kill Elijah, they did not succeed. God protected him and used him mightily to prove his supremacy as the omnipotent. What is the meaning of omnipotent? That is, God is all powerful. Omniscient, what does that mean? That is, all-knowing God. That is, God knows everything. And what is omnipresent? That is, God is everywhere. Yes, you. Omnipotent means what? God is so powerful. Correct. You, omniscient. That is, God knows everything. And omnipresent, you. Yes, God is everywhere. Clap for them. What are the lessons about the supremacy of God? Number one, the lesson to learn from this is that the rain that God withheld for 3.5 years demonstrated the manifestation of God's power. Also, God wonderfully provided for Elijah through the raven that fed him. Raven is a bird that we see by the stream, riverside. God used them to feed Elijah. That means if you are with God, God will provide for you and will also take good care of you. 2. Elijah and Obadiah were very courageous, not minding that Jezebel and Ahab were after the prophets of God. They stood their ground. Obadiah, who was the head of Ahab's household, was able to hide about 100 prophets at the expense of his life, because if the king and his wife discover that, they will kill him. Another lesson, they hunted Elijah, yet he always appeared to Ahab to deliver messages from God and make proclamations when it mattered most. Despite that, they were looking for him. They wanted to kill him. Anytime he came in contact with King Ahab, he will still deliver God messages for him. And also he make the proclamation when it mattered most. Another one, God protected those prophets that were loyal to him in the land of Israel during the period of famine. If you are loyal to God, if you follow God, if you do his will, God is there to protect you and to take good care of you. What are the lessons to learn about leadership? Good leaders should not allow their conduct to bring punishment and frustration to their followers. Second one, those in position of authority should obey the rules and abide by the laws in order to command followership. That is, if you are in the position of authority, obey the rules so that you can be a good example to your followers. Another one, leaders should avoid being derailed by those who are close to them. Not their wife, not their subject, not their even best friend. They should always try to do the right thing at the right time. They shouldn't allow anybody to derail them from doing what is right. They must have good sense of judgment to do the right thing and at the right time. They should not be biased. They should allow fairness to play in whatever they are doing. In the time of crisis, God has always been protecting his people. That's another fact. Another lesson. No matter what is happening to you, no matter what while you are facing, if you are a child of God, God will still protect you. Another one, lesson. Believers should follow the good examples of Obadiah and Elijah to be bold to work for God at all costs, no matter what happens. Before we go into the reference books, let us read one or two of the working texts. Let me read from the book of 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 29 down. Ahab the son of Omri became king over Israel in the 38 years of Asa, king of Judah. And Ahab the son of Omri reigned over Israel in Samaria for 22 years. Ahab the son of Omri did evil in the sight of the Lord, more than all the kings who were before him. It came about as if it had been a trivial thing for Ahab to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. The son of Nebat. that he married Jezebel, the daughter of Edba, king of the Sidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. So he erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria. Ahab also made the Asherah. Ahab did more to provoke the Lord, God of Israel, than all the kings of Israel who were before him. In the days, Hiel the Bethelite rebuilt Jericho. He laid the foundation with the loss of Abiram. That's not where we are going. Let us stop there. Let's now look at it now. I'm in chapter 17, where Elijah predicted drought. Now Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the settler of Gilead, said to Ahab, as the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, before whom I stand, there shall be neither dew nor rain these years, except by my word. And the word of the Lord came to him, saying, Go from here and turn eastward, and here hide yourself by the brook of Cherith, which is east of the Jordan River. You shall drink from the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to sustain you there with food. So he went and did in accordance with the word of the Lord. He went and lived by the brook Cherith, which is east of the Jordan. And the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he would drink from the brook. It happened after a while that the brook dried up, because there was no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him, saying, Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and stay there. Behold, I have commanded a widow there to provide for you. So he set out and went to Zarephath, and when he came to the gate of the city, behold, a widow was there gathering sticks of firewood for firewood. Let us stop there too. Now let me go to the book of 1 Kings 18. Let us read few verses there. 1 Kings chapter 18 from verse 1. Now it happened after many days that the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the third year, saying, Go show yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the face of the earth. So Elijah went to show himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria. Ahab called Obadiah, who was the governor of his house. Now Obadiah feared the Lord greatly. For when Jezebel destroyed the prophets of the Lord, Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50s in a cave, and provided them with bread and water. Then Ahab said to Obadiah, Go into the land to all the sources of water and to all the streams. Perhaps we may find grass and keep the horses and mules alive, and not have to kill some of the cattle. So they divided the land between them to survey it. Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another way by himself. Let's go to verse 18 because of our time. Let's quickly go to verse 17 and 18. Let me start from 16. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. When Ahab saw Elijah, Ahab said to him, Are you the one who is bringing disaster on Israel? Verse 18. Elijah said, I have not brought disaster on Israel, but you and your father's household have by abandoning the commandments of the Lord and by following the Baals. Let us stop there. So that is what happened during the religious tension in the land of Israel, and God really used Elijah and Obadiah to prove his mightiness and his supreme power over the idol worshippers. Now, the reference book to read for more understanding on this particular topic are, the first one is Essential Christian Religious Studies. Essential Christian Religious Studies for Senior Secondary Schools by Orofuji, Bio, and Okoli EU. And the second reference book is the Holy Bible. The Holy Bible. King James Version, New Living Translation, or other, version of the Bible. Just sit back and read all the working texts that match up this particular topic that we just discussed today. Now, the assignment. When you are coming to the class next time, you will submit this assignment. The first one says, highlight the causes of religious tension in the land of Israel. Highlight the causes of religious tension in the land of Israel. 2. Give 3 lessons about the supremacy of God. Give 3 lessons about the supremacy of God. 3. State 5 lessons you have learned about leadership. State 5 lessons you have learned about leadership. So make sure you attempt these questions and you are submitting in the next class. You will submit them in the next class. So thank you for having me. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.